Distinguished guests, colleagues, and participants, a very good evening from Winnipeg, Manitoba. It is my privilege to welcome all of you to today, our sixth episode of the webinar series that we are running for the Global Affairs Canada project titled Peace in Myanmar. And today's webinar is on a very critical and multifaceted issue of narco-terrorism in Myanmar and its role as a significant obstacle to sustainable peace. This topic demands urgent scholarly and policy attention as Myanmar navigates a precarious path toward conflict resolution amidst deeply entrenched illicit economies. The audience, before I set the scene for today's webinar, it is my privilege to welcome Dr. Hilal Mohiuddin, our co-founder and director research and communication, and he has kindly volunteered to speak as a subject matter expert on this topic. Thank you, Dr. Hilal. And also we have our chief advisor, David Joel Newman with us, and he is also going to take part in the question and answer session. The audience, the institute is located on original lands of Anishinaabe, Cree, Ojibwe, Dakota, and Dene peoples, and on the homeland of Metis Nation. We all are treaty people, and we all are promise bound to work together in the true spirit of truth and reconciliation. The audience, as I was saying, that this is one of the episodes in our Global Affairs Canada funded project, Peace in Myanmar. We invite scholars, practitioners, policymakers to speak on various important aspects on this conflict. And today, as I said, we have a very interesting topic is about narco-terrorism. And narco-terrorism in Myanmar is intricately linked with the country's ongoing internal conflicts, where ethnic armed organizations increasingly rely on narcotics trafficking as a vital source of funding their armed resistance against Myanmar military junta. This illicit trade sustains armed groups for financing military operations, perpetuating violence, and weakening the prospects for peace in general. A key geographical factor facilitating this phenomena is Golden Triangle, the notorious border region encompassing Myanmar, Laos, and Thailand. This area remains one of the world's largest opium-producing zones and a central hub for methamphetamine production and distribution. The porous border of the Golden Triangle enabled the trafficking of vast quantities of narcotics into regional and global markets, fueling insurgency and organized crime networks. Equally concerning is the exploitation of marginalized communities within Myanmar, including the Rohingyas. Displaced and vulnerable, some Rohingya individuals have been drawn into narcotics transportation network, often under coercion or economic desperation, which complicate both humanitarian response and security strategies in the region. Today, we are very much privileged to have and host Dr. Hilal Mohiuddin, whose expertise offers critical insights into the nexus of narcotic trafficking, armed conflict, and social dynamics within Myanmar. Dr. Mohiuddin's analysis will help us unpacking the complex ways narco-terrorism fuels conflict and undermines sustainable peace efforts. The audience, this webinar aligns closely with the ongoing work of our institute and its project on peace building in Myanmar. Our project is committed to exploring the root causes of conflict, including the economic underpinnings that sustain violence. Understanding narco-terrorism role is essential for developing holistic peace-building strategies that address both the political and illicit economic dimensions of the conflict. By integrating security, developmental, and human rights perspectives, this discussion aims to inform policy and practice that can disrupt the funding mechanisms of armed groups, support marginalized populations, and ultimately contribute to a sustainable peace in Myanmar. The audience, we thank you for joining this important conversation, and we will be inviting questions from the audience, as well as David Newman and I would be engaging Dr. Hilal after he presents a couple of slides and his initial presentation. And this is how we'll conduct our this evening's webinar. Dr. Hilal, without further ado, floor is yours. You can go ahead.
Good evening, Dr. Kassar and Dr. David. I start to talk about the premise of this study, this talk, this speak, because I attended many discussions on peace building in Myanmar and Bangladesh, even about Rohingya repatriation. One of the things that always uh, made me curious to just know about other dynamics that are missed out most of the time, or we are not discussing, or we are not hiding, even at policy level. I heard some high ups from Myanmar, from Malaysia, from Thailand speaking in different sessions, but they were also not really attending this topic. This very topic is very sensitive in many respects, because this is one of the most hidden areas that we can't just really um talk in public forums without knowing too much. So I understand this sensibility attached with this kind of topics. But the thing is that when we are talking about peace building or trying to find out a way for truth and reconciliation, at the same time, Rohingya repatriation, regional peace, peace building, whatever we talk, we need to get a clear understanding of the predicaments that are hindering all these processes. So now when we are talking about making a sustainable peace building effort in the region, I think it is better to be little late than never to speak about some of the sensitive topics. One of them is, of course, narco-terrorism. We did not talk really a lot about this topic, but this topic is very important in many respects. I will be attending one after another. Just you need to be little bit, I think, careful to just share your ideas and thoughts on this topic, because it's still, I took most of the information from United Nations Office of the Drug Control, and then some other NGOs, local NGOs who are Thai NGOs and Myanmar NGOs who are working on rehabilitation of drug. But that's at domestic level. The thing is that I am always curious why Thailand, Laos, these two countries, and Vietnam is as well. Vietnam is also suffering from this crisis, especially drug trafficking, but they are trying to keep it hidden. It's not really well addressed in different literatures. I don't know why. So I would request Dr. 𝐸𝐸 to point to the second slide. Do you have this one?
Yes, the map. Yeah.
Okay, you see, there is the map, Shan State especially. It's a Myanmar map, and Shan State, this state, Golden Triangle, and here most of the opium, methamphetamines, and other drugs are being produced in this area, and the trade network is vast. It's not limited in this region only. It actually moves to Mizoram, India, and then to Bangladesh, nearby Cox's Bazar, although it's far from Shan State in a way, but it comes through straight to Rakhine State, and then to Bangladesh, and it goes to Laos, China as well. It has a long history. The most important thing is the second slide, please. It's a vast trade. We did not take into account before. I don't know why, but the thing is that in 2019, it accounted for $7.2 billion revenue, just drug revenue in the country. It's not government revenue. It's underworld revenue. This huge business network, it kept expanding. It did not go down. It means that there is no control on that. You look at this 2019 and then 2023, it's a more than $10 billion business market, underground business market, drug trading. Next slide, please. So regional spillover zones, you see opium cultivation, 41,000 hectares of land is being used for opium cultivation now in the blue marked regions. And the methamphetamine seizures, it's just in 2023 in in Bangladesh, and then in Thailand, it's a 1 billion tablets in 2023. And Bangladesh's rising drug infiltration, you see, yaba, it's known as yaba in Bangladesh, red pill. It's a very dangerous pill, and a large number of Bangladeshi youths are getting addicted to yaba. 53 million tablets in 2023. We don't have updated information of 2024 or 2025. It's a 2025. We are expecting we will be getting some information about 2024 data by probably next month or somewhere around. Next slide, please. So it's a tens of billions of dollars of business, and major, actually, it's the second largest drug trade zone, Myanmar, and this region. So it dwarfs formal economy in the Shan state, the state that is producing and getting involved in this kind of trade. Then it hinders, ending ethnic conflicts. So there are different attempts, but one of the biggest reasons, because not only different conflicting groups, armed ethnic groups and insurgents, but even military and government officials, even bureaucracy is involved in this business, because it's a great source of black money and cash money. So this hot money is alluring many people, and it is one of the biggest hindrances to not only peace building, even diplomacy, because there is no statistics. We don't have clear, concrete data, and we can't really count on the information that we have, or make a concrete decision at policy level or inter-country, intergovernment, cross-border sort of diplomatic level. So this is a problem, indeed a problem. And corruption is getting intense in Myanmar, and one of the biggest reasons is really drug trade, for sure. Next slide. So Bangladesh, Cox's Bazar, Teknaf, and it's getting inside Bangladesh through Rakhine, through riverine communication means, as well as land-based communication means as well. They are being infiltrated into Bangladesh. This is the route. Next slide, please. So here I am showing, you see on the map, the Rohingya displacement. These areas are marked by this violet color, and there are 2 Rohingya camps, the bigger ones, the bigger circles, and the small possible trafficking hubs are the small ones. They are more than hubs. Rohingya camps are now being used, especially the bordering areas of the Rohingya camps, where Rohingyas are settled. In these areas, this is hilly terrain, and it's not easy for law enforcing agencies or drug control agencies to go there. They are not easy navigable areas. This is one of the biggest opportunities for the drug traders. And drug trading is not only drug trading, it is connected with arms trading. They sell drug and buy arms. That's the most important thing. And this is why armed insurgents are really becoming more focused on drug trading than doing any other jobs. And then there are peddlers. They are recruiting different types of peddlers. We are concerned more about the adolescents. They are targeting adolescents and kids. We have heard about the child warriors in different places. Now we are getting information from field level, especially the people who are working in Cox's Bazar areas and Teknaf. They often say that now many kids are being recruited because they, women and children, law enforcing agencies and others don't suspect them much because they are innocent kids and children, and the criminals are taking leverage advantages of their childhood, and their families are also allowing them as a means of livelihood, that they're getting engaged in different kind of employment generation and whatever it is, trying to become a kind of allowing to some extent, because the family context is completely different in refugee camps. So these families are depending on their survival, everyday survival. Survival is the main focus. So livelihood survival and family survival is on top of all priorities. Therefore, they don't care about law and legal matters, even ethical matters, religious matters. They are compromising all these considerations, values, and ideals that we previously had. This is another problem. The armed groups are taking advantage of their lax moral situation at this stage. Next slide, please. So ASEAN is under threat from Myanmar. It's a complex route. They are using different routes and keep continuously changing these routes. It goes to Vietnam, Thailand, then again even to some extent Myanmar. So the region is not also immune from this problem. The whole region is really under big trouble at this stage. There are some historical timelines. I'm not going to detail this historical account, but it's a very old trade. Drug trade is nothing new in Myanmar on this region. It started long time ago. They had business, opium business with China, legal business in 1800. And that business gradually transformed into some kind of ups and downs. Then China put some embargo that no, we are producing our own. They were being used at that time for medicinal purpose, but later it has become a big problem for China as well. So in Myanmar, 1948 is, this time is very important, 48 to 1968. 1962, there was a government which was kind of more inclined to socialist and communist ideal, and it tended to control drug abuse and drug business, drug trade, but for short time. When the government found that it's not easy, at the same time it's not getting them any revenue, they compromised, and then again they also got involved in this business. There is another one time, 1950 to 19, in between that, it's the 1950s to 1960s. It's a defeated Chinese nationalist troops fled to Burma's northeast, bringing weapons and engaging in large-scale opium trade with covert CIA support in their anti-communist efforts. So this is most of the time well talked when we try to blame CIA. This is a common narrative in our country. We love this kind of narrative, just to blame CIA. So this is why we have many information about this, that during that time they tried to impose the United States some kind of dominance and control on Myanmar, and that was translated into some kind of collaboration between the drug trade nexus and CIA. And emergence of the Golden Triangle, it's really not that old. It's new. When it became like industrialized drug trade premise, Golden Triangle, it happened during 1960s to 70s. During this time, drug production and trade really took an industrial scale. And I am fast moving to other militarization and Tatmadaw complicity. Now they are really, really engaged in this business, but it can be discussed in any public forum. That's the problem. And then global heroin supply hub, it became a global supply hub from 1990s to 2000 during this time. Now that unholy nexus, so what are the areas that are being affected and getting involved in this drug trade and narco-terrorism? Why we call it narco-terrorism? Because it's a terrorism in many aspects, and not only purchasing arms, but also it is a big reason for human trafficking, then sex ring, pornographic rings, then ethnic insurgency, child warriors, as we mentioned before. Warlordism is taking different shape now in this region, even in Bangladesh as well. We know some of the local contexts, some of the local stories. We have that we are not here just to mention the name of those people, warlords and drug lords, who were controlling drug business in Bangladesh, Teknaf and Cox's Bazar regions. They had strong political connections. Some of them were even in government in Bangladesh. So it's not the case only in Bangladesh. It's the case everywhere. In Thai parliament, there are some politicians who are really strongly connected with drug trade and business, Myanmar's narco-terrorism, and this is a kind of unholy nexus. Then Myanmar's military personnel, it's overt and covert, sometimes mostly hidden business. It's very understandable that they can, it can be, exposed to the outside world, but they are connected. There are different reports, even UN reports, that Myanmar is really hugely connected with, and this is why after some time, when we get a course of democratization process, thereafter that we compromise that democratization process and military takes over once again. Why? Because of the drug money and black money, because that's the biggest source of underground revenue and black money, and that black money allures everyone to get involved into drug trade and business. So it's a chain, and it has cross-sectoral impact as well. It's hindering security, economy, health, one of the biggest areas of concern, as we see in different Thai reports. Especially they are talking about Thai sex industry and tourism industry, how these industries are really fueled and fed by the Myanmar's drug business, and how these are being translated into terrorism and lawlessness, narco-terrorism. So there are different reports. And cross-country diplomacy is also being affected for this reason, because it's a very difficult to know who is doing what and how they are playing their real roles. We see something from outside, but probably the inside stories are completely different. And it's a very difficult to unearth all those realities. So unearthing is indeed a big challenge for the peace building efforts. At the same time, in Bangladesh, the Rohingya repatriation attempts are also sometimes being compromised by this, because there are the leaders, especially in the camps, who the supposedly the leaders that are taking war one after another. We don't really have any leadership. In the other session, we are talking about that they don't have real leadership there. And leadership development is a big challenge in Rohingya communities. But whatever leadership we see there, these leaderships eventually translates into some kind of gangsterism, some kind of arms dealings, connection with ARSA and other insurgents groups. And then what happens? We don't see who are the real leaders, and people don't. I worked there in the Rohingya camps 2 years ago, 3 years ago. It was on protective security of the Rohingya adolescents on this topic for BRAC, one of the biggest NGOs in Bangladesh. I worked there. And during that time, I found that people were giving us conflicting information about their leaders, that, oh, this is the person you need to talk. No one is really talking about. We did not cover drug trade related sensitive issues there. Absolutely not. But the thing was that people were sensing that probably we'll be heading to that direction. At some point, we'll be asking them some questions about that. We never ever did that. And we clearly told them that, no, we are not going to address any of those issues. But still, they were just giving us different confusing information and distracting us from our real. That's why I know how difficult it is to find the real person. When you don't get the real person, how can you make a plan that, okay, these are the information, trustable information, these information have validity, reliability, or trustability, that we can translate them into some kind of policy mechanism. So peace building is a very difficult task there because of weakening of local institutions in Myanmar, and also in Bangladesh, in camps, there are no institutions really. The government is controlling the camps, and it is very, I would say, efficient and effective to some extent from the administrative point of view. But if you look at the social impact point of view, they are trying to address as much the government can do in Bangladesh. So from the Bangladesh government's part, I have seen even during the past government, uh, there was a seriousness and you know a kind of professional commitment and conviction to make the Rohingya camps more livable, and it is working out. But still, the problem is that drug is infiltrating very fast. That the law enforcement agencies, even the security agencies, and the you know uh, our intelligence networks are not being successful all the time to dig out, to see the persons and real faces. So there are some real faces that are working from the background. This is a big problem. And next slide, please. So the risks for peace building are many, but as we understand, it's our commonsensical understanding. The law and order, of course, one of the biggest compromised areas in the whole region, but we are focusing more on Bangladesh. If we start from Bangladesh, or if we look at the region, then probably we need to learn something about the Arakan state, especially the Rakhine. It's now controlled by Arakan army. I think 70 to 80% of the Arakan is being controlled by the Arakan army. The 20% influence that the government, the Tatmadaw, the military has is really on paper, but the people there, they are thinking that either this region will become separated or go under a kind of confederation, loose confederation. But the fate is very unclear what will be happening there. So when we think about law and order situation, we don't have any information from Rakhine state. What are the law and order situation there? Because people don't open up. And then government information, government law and or law enforcement agencies are kind of inoperative there, or if they are operating there, we don't have any statistics or any data, any information. That's one of the biggest problems. And this is why it is also difficult, a big challenge for us to chart a kind of Rohingya repatriation efforts, to draw any model. If we try to draw a model, the first thing comes, like we talk about safe zones, but how the safe zones will really work. Recently, Bangladesh went under huge debate. Bangladeshi people did not like, citizens did not like the idea of a humanitarian passage that was proposed by the UN to send humanitarian assistance to Rakhine state, because there is an imminent threat of famine. People will die in large numbers. These are for sure, because UN have all those data and information. World Food Program has those information. And after the earthquake, they really need humanitarian assistance. It's a dire need at this stage. But there is a big problem. Bangladesh wanted to be a part of that, but because of the popular resistance from Bangladeshi people and a lot of misconceptions and misperceptions, political sort of game playing, this is not going to work. Now, the interim government of Bangladesh recently declared that no, we don't have any plan to, we did not even proceed a serious discussion with other parties and stakeholders to go for a humanitarian passage. So now that's under the table at this stage, and we don't know whether it will work. But there was a big possibility, to my understanding, what I have seen, that at least it would have created a climate for the stakeholders, peace building stakeholders from Bangladesh, to work with UN and get some statistics and some scenario what is happening there. It could have helped us a lot, but now the prospect is dying down fast. So this is one of the concern on my part, that because Bangladesh is thinking about its security, of course there are some valid grounds for this kind of concerns among the Bangladeshi citizens, because we have mixed, not only reactions, mixed information from the outcome of different um, humanitarian passages from all over the world. Some of them are successful, some of them are not. But to my understanding, what I have researched over the last couple of weeks, I found that only there are 5% or 6%, negative impact, like what we are fearing in Bangladesh, that these passages will pave the way for the insurgents and the criminals and terrorists to transport, to ship arms and drugs and other illicit materials. But from global experience, we have seen that it's not more than 5 to 10%. 90% cases they are successful. And there is another big, in other discussions, in other CRRIC discussions, in our last discussion, I believe, we raised that point that we have the example of Syrian Goma, where the Syrian government was not for the passage, but UN could have gone through a passage, just collaborating with other parties, other stakeholders, and it is possible if we get a resolution at Security Council or General Assembly in the United Nations. So there are prospects, and Bangladesh could have gone through it, but now we see that it's not going to work in Bangladesh. So this is not an option at this moment, but we are talking about it. We have that laid out in my next slide, but I am talking it ahead of time, because this is really connected for our discussion. So now what we could do, the thing is that this narco-terrorism, because it's hidden, but it's actively reinforcing statelessness, radicalization, and I wrote twice radicalization. Next slide, please. So it's a framework, integrated peace-building framework for border regions that I think we may consider when Smart Satellite is working with us and we are trying to form a simulation. We need some kind of model there. So who could be the actors, government actors, non-government actors, and international actors, especially non-diplomatic actors like us, different think tanks and other organizations, NGOs who are just working on humanitarian grounds. So humanitarian corridor for Rohingyas, I think at least for Rohingya purpose, we need to think about it. If we can't have a humanitarian passage now, how can we form that? For doing that, for getting that, we might need to think about governance reform, not only in Bangladesh, but in the whole region, in all countries. So a cross-country dialogue, or more than a number of, I think a number of cross-border, cross-country dialogues might be needed. That might help. Then anti-narcotic terror legislation is not that strong in any of the countries. I can talk about Bangladesh. I know that Bangladesh, we don't have an anti-narco terror legislation. I don't know what is the condition in Thailand, Laos, or some other countries in this region. But probably we'll be getting that information if we try to bring into our consideration this model, that if can really, if we really think about a peace-building framework, then probably we need to think about these areas. Intelligence and surveillance cooperation is also needed. I don't know how that will be implemented or enacted in this area, because this is another sensitive area. But surveillance is everywhere there. Intelligence and surveillance is there. We don't admit it often in public, but there are different types of intelligence from the government, intelligence from the insurgents, but it needs to be formalized. I think we need to be more open and transparent about intelligence and cross-country ASEAN, BIMSTEC, or SAARC, whatever are the regional organizations. We need to work in hands. just to be very transparent about intelligence sharing, because information is power and we can't really keep it hidden for a long time. It's not only connected with national integrity or sovereignty, but I think it's an essential, step for the regional stakeholders to keep all the countries safe and secured from the threat of narco terrorism, because there is a concern in Bangladesh that if we can't control the influx of Rohingya refugees, drug can be one of the reasons that fueled Rohingya extermination in Myanmar. We blamed Tatmadaw, we blamed other groups, but it is now very clear that Arakan army doesn't like Rohingyas either. Even the local people, they don't like. Why? They don't like these people. They were just farmers. They were not. There is not any evidence that the Rohingya people were involved in any kind of drug trade, drug dealing, drug peddling, or whatever sort of occupation with drugs. So they were completely different people. But we have information about other groups, that these groups, these insurgent groups and non-insurgent local groups, are very much connected to drug trade networks. So this could be another reason as well. Probably we haven't seen that reality. It's a hidden truth. It could be a hidden truth. And now more Rohingyas are entering into Bangladesh. It would be a big problem if we don't just try to control it, because many of them are getting engaged gradually in drug trade locally in Teknaf and Cox's Bazar area, and they're entering into Bangladesh, the mainland. It's spreading all over the country, Yaba especially. See, it is very difficult for the Bangladesh law enforcement agency and drug control agencies to control, infiltration of narcotic trade and business inside Bangladesh. If we need to have a real control mechanism, then I believe, it's my strong belief, that we need to have a peace building, not only peace building, we need to have a framework, even an anti-narco terror legislation, and a framework in Bangladesh and in other countries as well. So there are some other things that we can think. It's from NGO perspective, rehabilitation for addicts and youth, but that's another thing that needs to be integrated in the, especially in Bangladesh. It's inside thing. It's not a cross-country consideration though. But for cross-country and regional consideration, I think I would focus on this thing: regional task force for Myanmar border security, intelligence and surveillance cooperation, anti-narco terror legislation, and it can be from different size governance reforms in Bangladesh. On the right side, I forgot to put Bangladesh and then ASEAN. So on the right side of this diagram, you see I am talking more about Bangladesh, and on the left side I am talking about, and then in the middle I am talking about just a kind of integration of local and cross-border peace building negotiations and framework, especially around drug control and narco terrorism in this region. So that's pretty much it. It's still a rough idea. It's not a very finalized or refined idea. I'm still working on this topic, and I have a plan to write something in Bangladesh newspaper, national dailies. I am preparing something. If I have that, I will be very pleased to share with those who are really interested about this topic. By then, I am pretty sure that I will be getting a very concrete idea about how it might work. And I am waiting for that. Thank you for listening to me and for your attention. Thank you once again.
Thank you, Dr. Hilal. I think we have a fair bit of idea about the volume of this issue, and I think you have shown the graphs. We have received some questions from the audience, and I'll pick one before we invite David to kind of pose some questions. But in the meantime, I saw Felix join, but again he left, and we'll wait if he rejoins. So one of the questions by one of our audience members is like this, as you see on the screen, Dr. Halal. Do you want to speak about the comparative, volume of drug and drug trades with regards to Colombia, Mexico, or Syria, Afghanistan? Is Myanmar really big threat that we envisage?
Okay, I think it is. If not now, it's a looming threat. It will be a big threat down the road, maybe after 5 years, after 10 years, after 15 years, because there are too many conflicting interest groups, and these groups are armed groups. They are not only simple insurgents, they are really engaged in drug trade, drug business. And that's the biggest problem for Myanmar's integration. And if this keeps happening, now we see, the big challenges of Myanmar's disintegration. Like, think about Rakhine. We don't know what will happen to Rakhine, whether it will become an independent state, whether it will just continue like as it is now, because Arakan army looks like is already placed in a good standing, and they can survive like this the way they are now for another 10, 15, 20 years, because they are generating their own revenue for arms by selling drugs and other sort of activities. They have a militancy there. But the thing is that the common people, general people, they are really being affected. And in Bangladesh, they will use Bangladesh as their biggest buyer. Maybe not now, because now they don't need to do it, but you don't know what will happen after 1, 2, or 3 years. The context of Syria, Afghanistan, and other places that you mentioned, it's a completely different. Those ones are uh, geopolitical rest hubs for political and ideological reasons, not for drug trades. Afghanistan is somewhat different, but Afghanistan's dynamics was completely different as well, because they are producing heroin, poppy, and it's one of the biggest source of revenue. Now they are trying to legitimize it in a different way, like selling to different big pharmas and companies and corporations, rather than making it an illicit drug affair. But when there are drug production, there will be two sides. One is legit, another one side will be illegitimate. So that will be there. But in Afghanistan, so far we know, the information that we have, that they are trying to legitimize it in as many ways as possible. But you mentioned about Syria and other places; those ones are completely different. The contexts are very different, and they don't have any real symmetry with the challenges and problems that we are seeing in this subcontinent and this region.
Thank you. Thank you. I think it's a valid question, as Dr. Halal explained, that it could be a very big problem in the future. What I also think that the reason we are discussing this topic this evening, because as Dr. Halal initially mentioned, that drug trafficking is actually the source of money, funding to buy weapons for the ethnic armed organizations. And when we are talking about ending conflict and peace, how would we really take care of this funding when it will be, kind of eliminated from the scene? And also, any business that we talk about, it depends on the supply and demand equation in all senses, right? So if there is a demand and the supply is available, cheap and easy without any control, then I think it is definitely going to be a serious problem for Bangladesh and neighboring countries. So I just wanted to add with Dr. Halal's explanation here. David, sorry, you had been waiting patiently. So go ahead. Floor is yours, sir.
Thanks, Halal, for flagging this impediment, this obstacle, this threat to ongoing and possible peace in Myanmar and the region. Here I am in Canada with a legal background, and the United States of America, of course, using the pretense of drugs from Canada crossing the border into the U.S. being a threat to Americans, and therefore justifying imposition of tariffs and other kinds of economic gains for the United States as a result, when the magnitude of the problem is minuscule, although Canada still treats it seriously. But the point is that in healthy, relatively healthy, prosperous, privileged countries like Canada and the US, we obviously can create law and order and cross-border security, which can, through surveillance, technology, commitment of resources, really resolve this. So it is even a smaller issue, more difficult when you deal with Mexico versus the United States and drugs coming from there. And Mexico has its problems with drugs coming from Colombia and other parts of south of them. But it is advantageous for countries like Canada and the United States, obviously, to reduce consumption buyers within their regions, right? For the health of their own population. It is also, one would think, who are the big players in the Asian region around Myanmar? Well, China, India, certainly Bangladesh, Malaysia, Vietnam, and don't they have a significant selfish interest in preventing imports into their countries, right? So what I'm thinking when you think peace building and you think peace negotiation and investing in peace, isn't there can you really turn this drug threat issue into an opportunity issue? In other words, wouldn't it be in the interests of the neighboring countries, the richer and more powerful ones, to invest in peace in Myanmar? Because peace will result in less need for drugs, not only in the illicit trading part of it, but also in the consumption of it by people in trauma and people that are forced or seduced into their usage to make them peddlers and part of the industry. So I guess my question is, I mean, is there data showing the magnitude of imports, illegal imports into India, China, Malaysia, and all of the neighboring countries, which could be part of the solution, and also benefit their own people? So that's really my first question. But the second thing is what kind of, I mean, this is a regional problem. So my understanding is there was a drug control MOU in the Mekong area in 1974. And then in the 90s, I think it was 1993, there was legislation that was created in 2018. In Myanmar, there was a national drug control policy and stuff. And obviously, these situations didn't work. But wouldn't there be an interest to go back to a regional solution to this, to rather than making it a national issue, making it a regional issue? And so my question is there an effort in that direction? Is there some structure? Is there some organization that has been put together that deals with a regional solution to this, which I believe would take you right back to the root causes of the problem, which is the absence of positive peace in the area?
Thank you very much, David. Very good question. Very good question. Regional data, about your first question on regional data. We are heavily dependent on United Nations Office of the Drug Control data. And these data are completely on, most data are on Myanmar, on ground, what is happening in Myanmar. And there are, most of the time in reports, there are cautionary notes that these data are collected through different challenging, means. So these data are not to be taken as a complete data, complete
I guess
database.
my question would be just on that, what about the data in China? What about the data in India? What about the data in Bangladesh and Malaysia, where there's a more
Yes,
sophisticated capacity?
that's what I am answering. That's what I am answering.
Okay.
So the data that I compiled here is Bangladesh data, how many Yaba Bangladesh seized. And then most of the time we are depending on United Nations data. We have the data, and their data is not fully, mostly focused on Myanmar's drug trade when we are talking about narcoterrorism. Then Thailand, China has now very strict policy about drug. If they find anyone with drug, even in possession, they can be hanged to death. So capital punishment is there. So they have a strict policy, and it is controlling drug infiltration into China for sure. But many people are blaming China that now it is coming to other countries from China. In the bordering regions, there are still people who are engaged in business. Anyway, so the data that we have is still a kind of the data we have mostly on Myanmar. When we talk about drug trade, Myanmar is being blamed and Myanmar's situations are there. But we don't see a very strong data about the regional, influence. Okay, let me explain it to you. I got into some Thai data, and these are mostly written in Thailand's their own language. It's difficult. So I got only a few reports in English, and these English write-ups are mostly focused on domestic drug control. Most of them domestic drug control. We are not getting much insight about cross-border data, cross-border drug data. How many tons, or 100,000 tons or 2,000 tons of drugs are entering into Thailand, but not that. But about domestic context, how many users are there, how many rehab centers are there, how they are working, how they need to be reformed, how drug can be controlled. So most of them are even Malaysia. We have seen that. So we have dearth of information about cross-border drug trafficking. Drug trafficking information is much less there, but they have robust information database about domestic drug control measures, drug control policies, etc. Then your second question was about Mekong area 1997, 1993. They have strong legislation. As I said, like the previous one, most of them are domestically focused, not regional focus. Regional focus is not that strong. They are thinking most about, yes, border control is one of the biggest objectives of these countries. They are controlling their borders. They have their own surveillance systems, but it's not collaborative. It's not a kind of regional. Like we have CRRIC, we have ASEAN. I was trying to get some information from ASEAN. Indeed, they have some information, and I will be digging more about the information to find a concrete scene, how ASEAN is really talking about it. So I have seen that there are some cursory discussions on this topic in most of the ASEAN summits and meetings. They are talking about drug, but somehow this is a kind of miscellaneous sort of discussion, secondary discussion. It's not getting
Yeah,
prominence.
here's where I think Canada can play a role. It makes me think. I mean, we blame the Indigenous people of Canada living in remote reserves for the magnitude of drug importation and usage within those communities. Of course, we wouldn't, right? That is the problem of our own system of justice, government, health, prevention, all those kinds of things. So when you have a country in conflict, I mean, the last people one should blame is the ethnic folks who are involved in struggling for self-determination, recognition, rights, freedoms, equal opportunity for prosperity, all those kinds of things. So if the ASEAN region were, supported by countries like Canada, in particular Canada, in terms of as a region appreciating the solution, and you quantify it, you make the case, the solution to this whole problem, and including peace and equal opportunity to prosper of all people in Myanmar, is to work together to address these this problem. It is a problem like a disease. I mean, think of it like a pandemic, right? So all of the resources, frankly, it's a health issue, it's a justice issue, it is a sociological issue, and it's an economic issue, because the economy is not healthy enough to allow people to gain self-worth and local prosperity through their own effort and so forth. So I really think we can turn, by properly characterizing this as essentially a health harm issue, which can be addressed on a regional basis with the guidance of prosperous and privileged countries like Canada. So I really do thank you, Halal, for flagging this, because I think it is a very, very, it's a highlighting piece of the nature of the problem, and it is not a question of disarmament. It's not a question of, it goes right back to the root causes of what causes these kinds of situations. So I really appreciate it, Halal. Thank you.
Thank you very much, David. I just need to take 1 minute, Dr. Kaushal.
Yes.
Do you allow me to take 1 minute?
Yeah.
It's an excellent point, David. Excellent point that Canada, why Canada has a good standing in the whole region? Because the whole region considers Canada as a peace-loving country, real, genuine peace-loving country. When we hear about any, positive action of United States of America, people get hysteric. They don't really feel comfortable about this country, that probably CIA is doing something or some other thing. As it's a common psyche, national psyche in Bangladesh, in other countries as well. So United States is not really getting greeted all the time with the same respect like Canada, but Canada has a very, very good reputation in our region, the whole region. So if Canada supports any initiative in the region that you need to have a drug control regional policy and regional cooperation just for your safety, security, health, and justice, probably, yeah, it would work much better than intervention or just any help from any other assistance from any other countries. So yes, we can work to that direction if we can convince Canada just to make the regional actors sit together on a cross-regional drug control policy, because I am seeing that it's affecting Bangladesh society, Bangladesh community, urban areas. Kids are getting addicted to Yava, and all of them are coming from Myanmar. and we know that it's getting intensified. Government is trying its best to control it, but they are not being able to control it. It's just becoming a pandemic.
Yeah,
So,
boy, if you could ever pull together the numbers, if you could actually prove in an economic way the benefits would accrue to everybody in the region, and especially the government of Myanmar. Myanmar would benefit hugely by embracing this kind of collaboration,
right.
because it would be for the health and reputation and prosperity and well-being of that sovereign state, and it really, I think it's having the right kind of framing, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
So that if the framing is, my goodness, what a wonderful I would say achievable goal to bring about equal opportunity to prosper and the skills to do it, and the human capital of Rohingya and other valued and underutilized people in building healthy economies at local levels. If you turn that into a hugely positive thing, everyone wins. Everyone wins, not only the country, but the whole world.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, David, for such an insightful discussion. And we are going to end, but before I end, I have received another couple of questions from our intern, Madara Diaz. Madara is doing her internship from, she's from Master of Human Rights Program, University of Manitoba. And she's with us under the framework of Walter C. Newman Fund. And she's a very bright student, and she has posed the following question, Dr. Hilal. And if you can very briefly comment on this question. She's talking about how practical it is to implement the integrated peace building framework that you showed in your presentation. And it has two parts. So this is the first part. She's just posed the question how practical it is, and also because of the very geographical location of Myanmar, with porous border, uncontrolled border, and especially all the ethnic armed organizations are controlling their territory almost, I would say, unilaterally. So combine these two questions, Dr. Hilal, very briefly. Talk about the potential of your model of integrated peace building.
Okay, thank you. I think a cross-border policy can be enacted easily, and that is a need. It's not that difficult. All the parties can sit together, especially surveillance and control, like a regional police system. They can have one name in Bangladesh, China, Malaysia, Thailand, then Laos. Same rules, same guidelines, and it's about just drug control so that they can't infiltrate in these countries. It is at least possible. It's not that difficult. If there is a mediator, as David mentioned before, that if Canada supports this kind of initiative, it's possible because it has, good reputation to all countries. China, Malaysia, Bangladesh, Thailand, Laos, all countries love Canada, and they know that this is a peace-loving country, and what they do is really genuine, out of genuine intention. There are no political, this country is not politically dominating country, all other countries. So at least one thing can be done. Yes. Now we have legislation, we have acts, as we mentioned before. In Thailand, they have strong legislation, a strong act, but it's domestically focused mostly. 90%. They don't care about what is going to happen in Laos. They are another bordering neighbor. neighboring country. What is happening in Bangladesh is not their concern because they don't share any border with Bangladesh. Bangladesh shares border with Arakan, so that the mindset of Thailand is that it's a problem between Myanmar and Bangladesh. Let them sort it out. But we don't really think that way, especially at this stage. We think that that parochial way like before, then we'll be in big trouble because now communication is somewhat completely different. Like it's not like ever before. They can continue this drug trade ring through Facebook, through online measures. So the concept of border is now diminished. We don't really, border doesn't matter whether you have a border or not. But this is a regional problem. When we go to do something in, especially in Myanmar, even United Nations, if it really wants to make a qualitative change there politically and social and economic way, still one of the biggest challenges would be this. So if there is an integrated policy, like for positive things, people can't really say no. Even Myanmar government, Tatmadaw, can't say no, we don't need any regional drug policy. They can't say it, even if they don't like it. If it's not their genuine intention to say yes, they don't want to say yes, still they will say yes. So it will not get any kind of resistance from any quarters because it is for people's good, public good. So that's the only option. This is why I think it's not about production or control. It will get automatically controlled if you have strong border protection mechanism, especially in collaborative way, that we are really helping each other with information, with surveillance, with intelligence. Like something is happening in Bangladesh, there is a big, supply. 100 tons of narcotics is getting into Bangladesh, and if Thailand gets that information ahead of time, shares with Bangladesh, what's wrong in that? That's the collaboration, that's the cooperation that we can establish this way. But now what is happening, we know probably Thailand is sensing that something is going to happen there. There are some wrongdoings on the part of the Arakan drug traders, and they're entering to Bangladesh with a big haul. But probably they're remaining silent because it's not their headache. They don't care about what is happening in Bangladesh. It's not entering into Thailand. If it enters into Thailand, then we will intervene, otherwise not. But in this situation, when we have a regional collaborative framework, at least they will inform intelligence. They will share the intelligence that, look, these things are happening there. We are saying through our satellite data with our intelligence data, so you can do the rest. You can take your action. Then at least Bangladesh, drug control apparatus can work to control that. This is what I am just thinking at this stage, that it's a very possible and doable. It's not the difficult thing.
Thank you.
Just sitting together is the most important part of it. Thank
Thank
you.
you so much. Thank you so much, Dr. Halal. Dear audience, we would like to close the session today. It is over an hour, and we have attended, I think, one of the very intricate issue that is definitely going to impact the overall peace building in Myanmar. You have kind of listened to David's comments, which is really important, that this is the last thing that we should blame ethnic folks for trafficking and distributing or carrying the drugs onto other countries, because it is one of the issues that happens in this whole chain. But the supply and demand, and you have also seen number of maps that Dr. Halal brought today, the region itself and how these are being transported. So it is definitely a very complicated issue that is going to shape up our discussion in the future, particularly in this project. And our country, Canada, is uniquely placed. Again, I'm referring back to David's comment that we have dealt with and we are still dealing with some of the policies relating to curbing drug use in our country. And Canada can actually assist ASEAN, because Canada is an observer to ASEAN, support kind of integrated actions with regards to trafficking of and production of drug in that area, and which will essentially help ethnic displaced ethnic groups so that they can at least remain free out of at least one problem, i.e. drug trafficking.
𝐍𝐸, I just wanted to add,
Go ahead.
Interesting that from 1824 to 1948, the growth of opium, all under British colonization, right? So, I mean, they became a drug producer,
right?
Really, in reaction, in survival of the abuse and dominance of the British Empire. So, I mean, why would the government of Myanmar put itself in the same position of being effectively the dominant cause of the production of drugs and import of drugs into the region? So it's just how history can be a great teacher,
right?
And if only we would listen.
What a nice comment. I mean, very introspective. Actually, history also shows us that in this whole region, the opium trade, which is very much you can read many books. I do remember reading Amitabh Ghosh's one of the historical fictions where he actually talked about the opium trade and how it sucked the whole society into it. But we are going to end with a I would say optimistic note that at least we are talking, as Dr. Hilal rightly mentioned, that we are sort of avoiding this complicated issue when we talk about peace in Myanmar. But undoubtedly, we need to talk about it because there are high stakes. You have seen the number of money being transported in this or channeled and funneled through this process, and especially referring back to David's comments once again, that big countries like China and India, they should and possibly think and take it seriously regarding these drug things, because otherwise smaller countries like Bangladesh and Thailand, others, they don't have much resources, but China and India, they are giants, a huge player in this area, and if they can help generating the policies, and then it will go a long way in curbing these issues. Thank you so much, folks. Those who have written their comments in our YouTube channel, I can see, but just due to the paucity of the time, I would not take any question further. But please be with us, and in the future, we'll again broadcast one of the episodes, and I think it is coming up tomorrow with Dr. Mahfouz Rahman, former Lieutenant General from Bangladesh Army. And in this regard, I also remind our audience that Dr. Mahfouz actually presented one of the first webinars on drug issue in Myanmar. You can go back in our YouTube channel and you can listen to his presentation as well, and you can connect with Dr. Hilals today. So please come and join us tomorrow, 9 p.m. Central Standard Time, Winnipeg, Manitoba, and we are going to talk about Indo-Pacific region and how Indian Ocean is actually a battleground now with the Americans and Chinese and Indians are trying to compete to take control. Thank you once again, and Global Affairs Canada has funded this program, and we are deeply grateful for supporting this idea to build peace and create something so that it ends decades-long ethnic conflict in Myanmar. Thank you. Stay well and stay safe till we meet again tomorrow. Bye-bye.